This week on the video version of the Business of Tech, almost back to pre-pandemic jobs levels, but not in the same places. Right to repair becomes law, as privacy might just happen too. What percentage of B2B SaaS is via partners? Both bigger and customer-centric new tactics from ransomware operators. Notable IT services stories out of Apple's WWDC. Insight into startup spend on software, and a cloud mystery. Who turned on Insteon? All this and more. Hit those like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell for good measure to help us pay the bills. And here are this week's stories. So, job market conditions. Insider reports on the data released Friday, which added 390,000 non-farm payroll jobs. That's above the forecast. That puts the country on pace to complete the labor market recovery to pre-pandemic levels by the end of July. Digging into that data, there's significant shifts in where jobs are. Professional and business services are up 821,000 jobs, but leisure and hospitality are down 1.3 million jobs. Another insider article breaks down some of the trends in the economy. While stocks and tech are down, the economy is quite strong. The thesis? Spending is shifting in the economy away from goods into services. Restaurants, movies, and travel. Kayak reports a 22% increase in travel, for example. And the article notes that tech is not the whole market. Quoting, "One reason interest rates have risen is that economic growth is more widespread. Instead of a few uniquely positioned companies sucking up most consumer spending, many industries are open and getting a slice of the pie. This broad-based strength is the opposite of what the recessionistas want you to believe. Higher rates also mean that making bets on future returns from high-flying tech companies isn't as appealing as investing in bread-and-butter companies with strong profits. Why roll the dice on a tech startup when the outlook has improved for a traditional industrial conglomerate?" And people are spending. Actual consumer spending has advanced by 2.6% at an annual rate over the past 2 quarters. Why do we care? There's a subtlety to this that is why I keep revisiting it. The temptation is to think the market is experiencing one consistent set of conditions. Turns out this will be a lot more inconsistent. IT services companies will straddle the worlds too, living in tech, a market feeling distinct pressures, and bridging that to what consumers and customers are experiencing, from consumers in retail to the various served industries. Which is why we care. You'll want to be digging into specific industries as appropriate for you. The New York State Legislature has passed the U.S.'s first right to repair bill. The Fair Repair Act would require all manufacturers who sell digital electronic products within state borders to make tools, parts, and instructions for repair available to both consumers and independent shops. It will take effect 1 year after being passed into law. It's still awaiting the governor's signature, although expected to be signed. Meanwhile, in pending laws, a potential deal in the House and Senate around data privacy at the federal level. The proposed bill would allow users to opt out of targeted advertisements and sue internet companies that improperly sell their data. It's still a ways to go, but it's notably the most significant breakthrough in federal privacy policy. There's a lot in there, including allowing Americans to access their data and request it be deleted or corrected. Another piece of proposed legislation focuses on medical devices. This would require the Food and Drug Administration to issue cybersecurity guidelines regularly and share information about vulnerable devices on its website. Why do we care? I'm working backward, an actual set of movements on privacy and security. You can see Congress working on security broadly and defining portions of privacy laws, because it may go the way of right to repair and become actual law. New York is a significant market, making little sense for manufacturers to distribute only there. One state alone, making it law, is essentially all required to make it a thing. Patience pays. Let me start by saying I'm not too fond of Elon Musk stories. I'm going somewhere with this one, however. Let's catch up. Last week, Musk demanded his employees come back to the office or, quote, pretend to work somewhere else. The email to employees indicates that if workers don't show up to the office, quote, we will assume you have resigned. There's an exception for those he grants permission to continue to work from home. That was followed by a Reuters report that Musk was looking to cut about 10% of the Tesla workforce. Oh, and today, he may be backing those cuts off. For context, in 2018, he cut 9% of salaried workers, and in 2019, he cut 7% of full-time employees. In 2020, they did a pandemic-related set of furloughs. And as a fun coda to this, Microsoft recruiters, in a now-deleted tweet, specifically called out that Microsoft offers all the options. Why do we care? What's an easy way to cut your workforce? Piss some of them off, so they quit on their own. Honestly, I'm dismissive of all the noise that links Musk to remote work. I don't believe Tesla is the model of remote work anyway. And frankly, Musk sounds like a horrible manager. But encoded in his message are two parts. First, he will approve those prickly, worth-it employees. And second, he's cutting staff, which he does aggressively and regularly. So don't read this as a statement on remote work. Read it as a way to cut staff, which others will jump on. Microsoft is savvy. From a management perspective, who do you want to manage you? I'm taking a prediction victory lap here. Augment, who makes SaaS management software, announced an agreement with SeedPod Cyber to offer 40% off on cyber insurance for joint customers. Why do we care? I expect to see more of this style of partnership, putting your money where your mouth is. And I got a prediction right here. I'm biased towards small businesses. As ZDNet notes, 99% of US and UK firms are classified as small and medium-sized enterprises. So in that context, some recent research by Verizon found that more than 2/3 of businesses view technology as a critical ally to help them overcome challenges when it comes to improving sales, boosting talent acquisition, and tackling rising inflation and supply chain issues. A similar proportion say that revenue generated through digital operations is higher than pre-pandemic. And, quoting the article, businesses that have seen the impact of technology on their operation, for example the 50% increase in e-commerce quoted by some, are unlikely to return to their old ways of working. Even if they wanted to, staff and customers have both moved on. And in new survey results from Denodo, getting trained to support cloud needs is, quote, the top IT role, exceeding last year's leading role of choosing the cloud provider. This suggests that IT is no longer the hired hand of business, the survey's authors state. IT is a friend of the business, building bridges between IT, the lines of business, and executive management. Why do we care? IT services companies need to ensure they aren't the dog who finally catches the car. For years, IT has wanted to be critical to the business. Well, it appears we're well over that threshold now. So delivering on that promise matters. Are you linking your work specifically to the top-line revenue of the business, or even managing the costs of goods sold? If not, you're not where you should be. Some stats I noticed over on Partner Hacker. Quoting, 23% of B2B SaaS is sold through partners. For B2B licensed software, a whopping 64% is sold through partners. Think agencies, consultants, or other companies that resell IT to the end user. This relationship is the main reason 80% of the B2B software market is still licensed software, not SaaS. Why do we care? Partner Hacker's thesis in the article is that the requirement to enable this transaction on behalf of customers, and conveniently, there's a solution to deliver on this. I'll offer this is why distribution is getting so involved in SaaS, and new distributors have appeared to solve this problem. We care because the complexity is there for the customer, and there is opportunity in that complexity. I'm less convinced it's about the magic partner portal being discussed, although Seed, this area of billing and relationship management, is the space to care about. I'll offer one other reason to care. Most new businesses will want the benefits of SaaS, and if the partnership space doesn't solve it, the market may start to bypass it. May, but certainly could. So, Microsoft Exchange Server. Wonder when the new version is coming out? You and others. 2 years ago, Microsoft announced new versions of Exchange, SharePoint Server, Skype for Business Server, and Project Server to be available in the second half of 2021. 2 of those, SharePoint Server and Project Server, launched, although you need subscriptions to them. And now we know that the next version of the Exchange Server for on-premises comes out in 2025. Microsoft indicates the delay is related to security, and it's only going to be available via subscription. Why do we care? It's not an accident that this piece is right after a SaaS one. Frankly, I don't think most organizations should care about this. On-prem Exchange? No thank you. That's hard enough to secure, much less with new versions coming out that far apart. Let Microsoft handle that complexity for you for a low subscription fee. This is just one reason not to care. And while I'm not inclined to believe it's a conspiracy, I don't think Microsoft will be too worried about the delay either. Some new tactics from ransomware gangs. The data extortion gang Industrial Spy is now publicly hacking corporate websites to display their ransom notes. As part of their attacks, Industrial Spy will breach networks, steal data, and deploy ransomware on devices. The threat actors then threaten to sell the stolen data on their Tor marketplace if a ransom is not paid. The public defacement of the company's website is the new twist. Other groups are now also giving more time to victims, the initial phases of the breach being less exposed to the public, showing their targets a more extended opportunity to negotiate the ransom payment in secrecy while still maintaining a level of pressure in the form of a future data leak. And data from cybersecurity firm Kayla, in its Ransomware Victims and Network Access Sales Report, suggests another approach. A few ransomware gangs, including Midas and Lorenz, are also switching up their tactics. A new victim intimidation method detected by the cybersecurity firm is for the group to publish a victim on a leak site as a new company. If the business refuses to pay, the post is edited to include the brand. And some of the gangs at the top of the list have been observed attacking each other, or, at the very least, laying claim to the same victims. Evil Corp has switched their tools, moving to the Lockbit ransomware to evade detection. And all the gangs are getting good at this too. The duration of ransomware attacks in 2021 averaged 92.5 hours, measured from initial network access to payload deployment. In 2020, ransomware actors spent an average of 230 hours to complete their attacks, and 1,637 hours in 2019. That from IBM's X-Force team. U.S. agencies gave insights this week on how Chinese state actors hit ISPs and telcos. Quoting the record, the latest advisory details how hackers rely on compromised servers, or hop points, from China-based IP addresses to register and eventually gain access to email accounts, host command and control domains, and otherwise interface with victimized networks. After they've distanced themselves, state-linked actors go on to exploit infrastructure in internet providers and telecoms, as well as a small home office and business routers manufactured by key providers, giving them the ability to target and attack at scale. The RSA conference is going on this week in San Francisco, and Protocol's coverage of the event highlighted the continued spending on cybersecurity, even with the potential slowdown of the economy more broadly. Of note, they even talked with managed IT services providers. Why do we care? No honor among thieves. Plus, I'm amused to find them switching tools the same way an MSP might switch theirs. On to the meat of the stories, new tactics. Note how some groups are swinging to more bold tactics by making the hacks more public, while others are focused on customer service, giving victims more time to pay. I'm constantly amazed at the business-savvy nature of these enterprises. As those on the defense, we are continually learning to keep up. Did you know Cisco helps managed services providers directly? Know about the Cisco Partner Program? Focused on helping partners combine managed services expertise and service creation with innovative Cisco technology and proven go-to-market resources. There's a program option for you. With provider pricing, MDF, and marketing resources, coupled with Cisco's leading technologies including Meraki, Duo, and Umbrella, learn more with the link right in the show notes. I didn't cover Apple's WWDC much initially due to it being a lot of things to come that were generally just user features. There are several I do want to note. First, Apple is launching Rapid Security Response, which applies security updates to devices on the fly, outside of version updates. The description of the feature suggests that you might not need to reboot your phone for some updates to take effect. Rapid Security Response is not limited to iOS. Apple's bringing this feature to macOS Ventura as well, according to a feature preview page. Google has a similar feature with Google Play system updates. Second, the next version of macOS Ventura will include a feature to alert on new USB and Thunderbolt accessories, requiring user approval. From the description, on portable Mac computers with Apple Silicon, new USB and Thunderbolt accessories require user approval before the accessory can communicate with macOS for connections wired directly to the USB-C port. This doesn't apply to power adapters, standalone displays, or connections to an approved hub. Devices can still charge if you choose don't allow. That new OS will also only be supported on Intel Macs introduced after 2017. The current OS, Monterey, supports systems going back to 2013. And finally, Apple demonstrated passkeys, which leverage that previously announced FIDO Alliance feature that allows for web authentication based on biometric sign-in. Why do we care? It's that last one that I think has the broadest impact. I'm expecting Microsoft's announcement soon enough. The elimination of passwords to a more key-based set of solutions is going to be a huge step forward. Keep an eye here, as first movers will get a lot of benefits. I'm very pro-automation when it comes to patching, and applaud the specific design choice to allow those updates to simply happen in the background. Sure, trust but verify, but I continue to encourage the automatic approach rather than the manual one, particularly on mobile. Finally, note the tightening of the support period by Apple, something to care about. It'll push upgrades, but also now shrinks the value of the devices over time. New research from Paychex, the payroll and HR services company. 65% of employees whose benefits had changed since switching to remote work reported an increased level of job satisfaction. In comparison, 73% of employees noted that productivity levels had improved when employers adjusted their benefits packages. The headline? Employees who update their benefits packages to new working preferences benefit from greater productivity, higher job satisfaction, and better company culture. Remote workers' most common benefit updates included flexible working hours and performance bonuses. However, when asked which additional benefits they most wanted, employees placed a home office stipend at 31% and reimbursement for internet costs, 30%, in the top two spots. While I'm mentioning these changes, the world's largest trial of the 4-day workweek kicked off in the UK this week. The pilot, lasting 6 months, involves 3,300 workers across 70 companies. Add to all that an article in Protocol reviewing the apparent shift in employee desires and perks, calling some anti-perks. These include free food, video games, open plan offices, fitness rooms, nap rooms, and the like. Research shows employees don't want snacks. They want work that aligns with their values, structural benefits like location-agnostic pay, and support for different kinds of employee leave. Now, why do we care? This particular set of stories feels very actionable. A noticeable trend is that employees generally don't value the fluff, food, games, etc. Things designed to keep staff in the office more than empower them. The general rule of thumb, employees can smell the bullshit a mile away. Favor benefits that are benefits to them, and they respond. The first 4 states to get access to the Fund for Broadband Infrastructure and Other Digital Connectivity Projects has been announced by the Treasury Department. Louisiana, New Hampshire, Virginia, and West Virginia will get investments designed to bring high-speed internet to more than 200,000 homes. Also, to come from the Fed, the House is looking to understand the costs of bad software. The House Armed Services Subcommittee on Cyber, Innovative Technologies, and Information Systems is calling for an independent assessment of military software and IT to determine how much money the department is losing, including in productivity, due to poorly performing software and IT systems. Why do we care? Well, even the Pentagon can benefit from researching and paying off technical debt. Take that one into your arsenal. Listeners know I'm very pro-broadband investment, so this is a win. And what is essential is that each state is applying the funds differently for their own needs. That's smart, and so it should be more effective. Not an immediate impact, but something to track as those underserved become connected and potential customers. Out there on the horizon, this week, MongoDB announced queryable encryption, a feature that will allow database users to search their data while it remains encrypted. The tool, which is debuting in preview as part of MongoDB 6.0, attempts to bridge academic cryptography findings and real-world environments so users can adopt the feature without needing advanced theoretical expertise. Critically, queryable encryption is built to work with existing databases rather than requiring users to re-architect their systems before they can take advantage of it. Why do we care? This is a potentially massive deal in the long term. We care because of the possibilities. While the blockchain has been theoretical for many, making existing databases searchable while encrypted is rolling out now and useful. While not necessarily actionable today, knowing it's a possibility and something to watch for is today's takeaway. So, what do startups spend their money on? Thanks to listener William for sharing this one with me. It's research from Cladera on how money is spent when it comes to software, notably often the second largest expense after payroll. The top ranking spend? Productivity and collaboration at 18.8% of the budget. That's tools like Asana, Slack, Miro, and offerings from Microsoft and Google. Next up is marketing automation, followed by development tools, customer service, and then IT tools. There's a big other pot too, which includes a lot of stuff that varies depending on the industry. Why do we care? This data validates for me the approach of focusing on the work layer. That's where the spending is. Note how IT tools are fifth. IT services companies should understand that ranking because customer importance matters. Go where the money is never fails to be wise advice. I also like this perspective because it's young companies, startups. Generally, this is the stage of business where you're most conservative with your spending. Owners are far more deliberate when every dollar counts and you have a finite pile of them. It makes each dollar spent much more critical, so considering their priorities matters. And note, security isn't specifically there. I suspect it's lumped into IT tools, which resonates with something that's a tax on the business rather than an enabler. Microsoft announced several significant changes on Wednesday. First, they will no longer include non-competition clauses in their U.S. employment agreements and will remove these clauses from existing agreements. This applies to all employees except senior leaders. Microsoft will no longer include non-disclosure clauses in settlement and separation agreements with U.S. workers that would prevent them from disclosing allegations of misconduct. The company will publicly disclose salary ranges in job posts in the U.S. starting in January 2023. All three are required by law in Washington State, where Microsoft is based. Finally, Microsoft says it will commission and publish findings from a third-party civil rights audit to be completed in its upcoming fiscal year, scrutinizing workforce policies and practices that impact diversity and inclusion. Why do we care? While applauding the move, a headline that reads, "Microsoft complies with the law," is both accurate and wholly uninteresting. They're smart to position themselves as putting workers first and getting ahead of the narrative. I'll acknowledge that and commend them, but I also wanted to recognize that they didn't have a choice here. That said, there's space for other companies to get ahead of it too, even before it's the law in your state. So, a follow-up to something I covered before. Last April, Smart Labs shut off their servers, which took down all the Insteon smart home equipment. The company stated they were experiencing financial difficulties, and so far, no one is aware of a buyer. And now, users are reporting that their equipment is now up and working again. Somebody apparently switched on the servers, and no one seems to know who. Was the company rescued? Why do we care? My immediate thought about this story: how scary is it not to know who is on the other side of that service? Sure, you may be tempted to think this is all home users or dismiss consumer companies. Now consider the idea of not knowing who is on the other side of a cloud service. This business validation of the other side of the connection feels like an area worth pondering more. This isn't to be dismissive about the cloud, it's about considering which services one uses, to be very intentional about the choices.
Thanks for your time and attention. Time is a finite resource, and I really value you giving me some of yours. If you like this video, you can let me know with a like of the video, and even more valuable, hitting the subscription button. My content is all free, and I use metrics like subscriptions to pay the bills, so it has real value. The content here is produced under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. If you're interested in more content like this, you can get access to content early via our Patreon at patreon.com/MSPradio. It's our give what you want model where you set the value of what you think the content is worth. If you like this podcast, you can catch it daily as the 5-minute news and commentary show, The Business of Tech, available on all your favorite podcatchers with links at businessof.tech. Just hit that big blue button to subscribe. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen, and I really value the interaction. If you want to say something in the comments, I do respond and watch all that, and I look forward to talking to you next time.